Greetings and hello! Welcome to another guide for Arcane Rush. Today we're talking about elves. Just like all the other factions in the game, elves are defined by a mechanic that makes playing with them intrinsically unique. For example, dwarves have brews or gnomes have their modules. For elves, it's combos. As you might know, combo isn't the only thing that makes elves so special. Another very big aspect is ranged, because the keyword ranged is nearly exclusive to elves. Yeah, I know, maybe you have some spells for the gauntlet or clan wars here and there that can randomly put ranged on a unit, or maybe you find a relic that can also put it on a unit, and I think there is even a hero that can put ranged on a unit, but that's about it. So having access to the ranged keyword makes elves very strong. Because I don't know if you've read it yet, but ranged says this unit does not take damage when it attacks. So that means as long as you attack, the enemy just dies while you are fine. You keep your barrier if you have one. You don't lose any health. It's very, very strong. In my opinion, it's one of the, if not the strongest keyword in the game, if you only see it in a vacuum. The last thing I want to talk about is barrier. The reason I'm talking about barrier is because elves have good access to barriers. There are a couple of units that can have barrier intrinsically or can put barrier on another unit. So barrier is also part of the identity of elves at the moment. And barrier has a very strong synergy with ranged, because you don't lose your barrier when you attack, as I told you, and when the enemy attacks you, he crashes into the barrier first, so for one enemy attack you don't lose any units or health or HP as well. So it's quite hard to penetrate the enemy elf board if you don't have enough attacks to push through. So ranged and barrier as a combination is very strong, simply because it helps you survive that much longer. Let's talk about the combo units now, because combo units are the backbone of the whole faction. As I've shown you before, if you read the text, combo units trigger their effect when a unit gets placed on the board that has at least the same tier as the combo unit. So for example, if you have an Adept Enchanter on the board, he is a tier 3 unit, and then you play another tier 3 unit on the board, his combo will trigger, which will, in his case, give an ally stats equal to its tier. Or if you play a tier 4 unit, he will also trigger. Even on tier 5, he will trigger, as long as you play units with at least the same tier as your combo units, the combo will trigger. And as long as there is no limit, like on the Dearest, you can keep triggering the combo as long as you can play more cards. And that is the idea of how to play elves. You want to play as many cards as possible, and well, something that I will show you later on, you can pick up cards, you can sell cards, you can cycle cards, you can go through a lot of cards to generate more and more combos. On a side note, as the Adept Enchanter will not trigger if you play a tier 1 or a tier 2 unit, it's generally always better to play low tier combo units so that you have more cards in the game, in the shop, in the hand that can trigger the combos. So keep in mind that low tier combo units, even though their effects might not be as strong as the high tier combo units, are sometimes better because you can proc more combos. The reason you want to proc more combos is because of a specific card that I will show you later on, but keep in mind, the more combos, the better. The next two cards I want to talk about are the Curious Alchemist and the Stag Guardian. The reason I want to show you those is because those are the only two cards of the faction that will on play give you elves. They will generate you elves, so they will in essence generate you more combos, because you play them and then you get more combos on the combo units you have on the board. So that is the synergy. The Curious Alchemist is an epic version, just like the Stag Guardian, but there also exists a legendary version of them that also has the playability. And if you have those versions, you can, without any problem, use those versions as well. The Stag Guardian is a little bit stronger than the Curious Alchemist, simply because he will let you discover a unit, while the Curious Alchemist will only get you a unit, so it's harder to control what units you get. But those are still very strong together. The next cards I want to talk about are these 6 cards and 1 recall spell. The reason I want to talk about those elves is because you need space on the board to place units on the board, and those cards can help you, well, create the space for you to place more units on the board. One of them is the Fortifying Weaver, and the second is the Archmage Cedral. Those 2 cards have in essence the same effect. They will on start of turn return to hand, which is very good. But keep in mind, you can only return cards back to hand as long as you have enough space in hand so that they can return. The other part is that on end of turn they will gain stats depending on the amount of elves that you played that turn. So Fortifying Weaver and Archmage Cedral are like quite easy versions of return to hand, so that you can place them end of turn again after you played all the elves or all the other cards that you wanted to play first. The next one is the Recaller Lyrel and the Enchantress Melody. The Recaller is like a budget version of the Enchantress, because she will on start of turn return the unit to his left or to her left back to hand, as long as it's an elf. And the Enchantress Melody does the same, but for her whole row that she is laying in. And if she is golden, she will even return every elf on the board back to hand start of turn. She is very strong because you can pick up to 5 elves with her. The next one is the Echo Weaver, and in my opinion she is even better than the Enchantress Melody, simply because start of turn you get 2 recalled spells, and if she is golden you will even get 4 recalled spells. And the Recaller Everglow will on sale get you a recalled spell as well. The reason those are so strong, especially why the Echo Weaver is so strong, is because you can control which units you want to return to hand with the recalled spells. With Enchantress Melody, you might pick up your combo units as well, which you don't want to play, which you don't want to return to hand because they don't trigger their own combo abilities. But the recalled spell can control which units you want to return to hand. So you can, for example, if you have a Stag Guardian, you can return the Stag Guardian to hand after you picked him up, after you placed him on the board. So he will give you an elf, and then you can recall the Stag Guardian with the recall spell again, and then you can place the Stag Guardian on the board again. And as he is a tier 5 unit, you get a lot of combo abilities that get triggered. So Echo Weaver, especially for the later parts of the game, if you want to play elves in a strong way, is one of the best cards that you can get. The Enchantress Melody is very strong as well though, so if you don't have the Echo Weaver, the Enchantress Melody still works fine. Let's talk about some cards that can influence the strength of your elves against certain comps. The first one is the Sunlit Archer, and all the archers in particular. The Sunlit Archer spawns when there is space, so as long as you keep him in hand, he will spawn the moment a unit dies. The next one is the Rapid Fire Archer, and he says, ongoing, after different allies attack 5 times, attack immediately 5 left. So if you have elves with, for example, multi-strike, and they attack and then they attack again, and this happens 5 times, he will also cut in and attack as well. And he can do this up to 5 times every game, every fight. The last one is the Quickshot Archer, and he is a counter to everything that spawns units, for example, goblins or ninjas or even undead or orcs, because the Quickshot Archer says, ranged, ongoing, when an enemy unit is summoned, I attack it immediately, 5 left. So the Quickshot Archer will attack the unit that gets spawned instantly, so that the unit cannot attack or proc anything. It just gets deleted as long as the Quickshot Archer is strong enough to kill that unit on spawn. Those 3 cards can well, change the way you play elves, especially if you play them in the Gauntlet, for example, because if you face other factions like undead or, as I said, ninjas, the quickshot archer can be very helpful in facing those factions. The last two cards I want to talk about are the Oakheart Warden and the Oakheart Stalwart. The reason I want to talk about the Oakhearts is because they have the ability to apply barrier to your units. And barrier is, as I said, very strong. So maybe you want to incorporate them in your strategies. But there is a big difference between them, because the first one has the attack ability to apply the barrier onto units, while the other one needs his barrier destroyed so that he can apply barrier to 2 units. So the idea of having both of them, or playing either of them, is very different. For example, if you play the first one with the attack ability, you want to put him on position 1, which I will call P1 from now on, because he can attack earlier so that you can apply your barriers earlier. The other one you can place wherever on the board, maybe even taunt him, so that he gets attacked first, and then his barrier breaks, which will apply barrier to other units. So he is, well, kind of more protective in a passive manner than the first one with the attack ability. They both work very well, especially if you make them golden, because they will then apply barrier to 4 units, but the idea of using either of them is different. Last but not least, I want to talk about Aeris shortly. First of all, Stoic Aeris is shit. I wouldn't play her, I would use the epic version instead, because it's a budget version of Aeris Stormsplitter, and Aeris Stormsplitter is in most cases the best unit you can go for, simply because she is a combo unit. Stoic only gives you some stats, but the amount of stats you get are so little that it would be way better to play a combo unit instead. Aeris Stormsplitter has the ability of getting Cleave, and when she is the legendary version and golden, then she will also get stats, and the Cleave will be permanent. But you can always trigger her combo ability, so it doesn't really matter if she has Cleave already or not. She's just awesome because she is a unit that has Cleave and ranged, and is a combo unit, so she is very strong, and she can help you generate you more combos. And the last one is the Sharpshooter Aeris, and I think Sharpshooter is very interesting in specific matchups. She has the ability ongoing, when an enemy takes damage from a different ally elf, I attack it immediately. That means whenever either an elf attacks an enemy that didn't die, well, sadly it always procs, but whenever an elf attacks an enemy, the Sharpshooter tries to attack that enemy as well. So if that enemy survives the first attack of the elf, then she will shoot that unit again and try to kill that unit again, which is awesome against some big stat units. For example, Aztecs or strong demons or whatever. The second part, which makes her very interesting, is because if you face something like Berserk units or Rage units, she is also very, very strong, because Berserk units are very tanky, and she can help you kill this unit anyway. And for Rage it's even more interesting, because Rage has the effect of when that unit with Rage attacks and it would die normally, it will not die and will remain on 1 HP instead. And when an enemy crashes into a shield or an elf directly, then the elf dealt damage to that Rage unit. So that means, even though the enemy attacked, the Stormsplitter will still attack that unit. So if you have, for example, you're facing orcs, and you face something like a Kaz with Rage, and he attacks you 3 times, or he tries to attack you 2 times, or even more often, depending on the amount of triggers you have on your orcs, she can just kill the Kaz the first time the Kaz attacks, because the Kaz will be on 1 HP, and then the Stormsplitter will instantly shoot that Kaz, so that the Kaz cannot attack anymore, but dies instead. So Sharpshooter is very strong against specific factions, just like the Quickshot Archer is. So depending on what gauntlet you have, maybe it's best to swap the sharpshooter in instead, just like the quickshot archer. Whew, that was a lot. Okay, let's finally talk about the heart of the whole elf faction, the Archivist. The Archivist is so important to elves that if you don't have him, elves feel like they are not even a faction. It's very sad because the whole faction turns and forms around the Archivist, because without the Archivist you don't have any stats on your elves, even if you generate a lot of combos. But the reason you want so many combos is because of the recurring Archivist as well, or any Archivist for that matter. Let's talk about them all first, and then I will explain why the recurring Archivist is the most important version of him. There is first the Chaining Archivist. He will on play give units in his row 10-10, and he does this for every elf you played that turn. So the more elves you play, the more stats the Chaining Archivist can generate you. If you can re-trigger play abilities, that is very nice, because, well, you can re-trigger the Chaining Archivist again, right? So that's actually not that bad. The next one is the Triumphant Archivist, and he is the first one that scales with the amount of combos, because he will on kickstart gain 18-18 for each combo triggered this game. So the more combos you trigger this game, the more stats he will gain on kickstart. Let's say, for example, you triggered 200 combos, then he will generate 200 times 18-18 on himself, which means a lot of stats. If you generate 1,000 combos, he will go up to 18,000, which is very big, but the more combos you get, the stronger he gets. So that is the idea of the amount of combos. The last one is the Recurring Archivist, and he is, in my opinion, the most important card in the whole faction, simply because end of turn he gives allies 8-6 for each combo triggered this turn. So he himself will not get any stats, but all the other cards you have on the board will get stats. And the more combos you trigger in one turn, the more stats you generate. So all the cards that I've shown you so far will finally be able to get some stats. Now let's talk about some other cards that can help you accomplish your goal of generating a lot of combos. Or making your elf stronger per se. The reason I'm mentioning them all here is because they are not as important as the other cards I was talking about before, but if you have them, you can always play them and they always feel nice. The first one is the Forlorn Scout or the Sylvan Scout, depending on which version you have. The epic version is free. Well, he always costs 3 gold, but he is worth 3 gold. And the reason is because he will on play refresh the shop, which means 1 gold, and the next unit you buy also costs 1 gold less, so it's another gold, and when you sell him, it's 1 more gold, so he is worth 3 gold, which means in essence he is free. The next one is the Sylvan Scout, and he is only worth 2 gold, because he will not reduce the cost of the next unit you buy, but he will reshuffle the shop with 2 random elves instead. And this can help you find more of the elves that you want to play, so it helps you keep the combos going. If you have the Sylvan Scout, in most cases he is better for elves, but if you play them for other factions, then the Forlorn Scout is the better version. The next one is the Everglow Radiant. And I would only advise you to play the Radiant if you don't have the Everglow that I showed you before, with the recall spell. But she can on play give your elves +2/+2, and you get a Faikin Ambassador. The Ambassador is a tier 1 unit, if I remember correctly, so she will not help you trigger more combos, but as the Everglow is a tier 4 unit, she will help you trigger combos, and it only costs you 1 gold because you get 1 more unit that you can sell. The next one is the Unifying Swordmaster, and the Unifying Swordmaster will on play trigger your unit's combo abilities and give your units +3/+3 for each combo triggered. So if you have a lot of combo units on the board, and it doesn't really matter which ones you have, the moment you play the Swordmaster, she will trigger all the combo units on the board once. The funny part is, if you have tier 1 to tier 4 combo units on the board, they will themselves trigger again because the Unifying Swordmaster is a tier 4 unit itself. So the Unifying Swordmaster is the card that can technically generate you the most combos in one play. The next one is the Windstrike Grandmaster, and he isn't mandatory, but he can be helpful because he will on kickstart give the allies in his row +4/+4 and multi-strike. And multi-strike is a keyword that is very hard to get on elves if you don't have any relics or heroes or spells. So multi-strike is very nice, especially on ranged, and so he is very strong and he is at least mentionable. The last one is the Blissful Soul Seeker, and he is very nice, or actually she is very nice, because on sell he gives an ally a +4/+4 and returns it to hand. So she is like, she works similar to the recall spell, but you don't have any control on which unit you pick up. But she is always nice to have, because if you have something like the Stag Guardian and you find only elves that you don't want to play because you don't need them, she is a nice one to pick because she will let one of your units come back in hand again, which you can then play again to trigger another combo. So she is always helpful and never bad to have. Now I want to talk about the Gladewood Tactician and the Elusive Seedroll. The reason I want to talk about those two cards is because they have something special going for them. They, as you can see, are combo units. You can see the combo on the card text, but also in the top right corner with this star in the corner. So they are combo units, which is always nice. We want more combos, right? But they also return to hand. Let's read the text of the Gladewood Tactician first. He says on combo, return me to hand, 1 left. Play, trigger a different combo ability. So he works a little bit like multiple cards combined. He will on play trigger a combo ability. If there is a tier 3 or lower combo unit on the board, he will trigger those as well because he is a tier 3 unit. And when his own combo ability gets triggered, he will return to hand. So he is very nice to, well, keep playing him. When he is golden, by the way, his effect will trigger 2 different combo abilities, and the 1 left will be 2 left. So you can return him to hand twice every turn. He is very nice to generate more combos if you have the space to play him. The other one is the Elusive Seedroll, and the Elusive Seedroll is, well, in my opinion, even stronger than the Gladewood Tactician, because he himself is a tier 5 unit, which means he can trigger every combo ability on the board, always, and he can intrinsically return to hand twice. I know he will not trigger a different combo ability on play, but as he is a tier 5 unit, it's easier to trigger your combo abilities. And if you have tier 4 and tier 5 units on the board with the combo, then the Gladewood Tactician is worse. So the Elusive Seedroll and the Gladewood Tactician are very strong if you can return them to hand again and again. An idea is, for example, you have 2 spaces on the board that you can play units on, and then you can play the first, like, let's say you have 2 Elusive Seedrolls in hand. Then you can play 1 Elusive Seedroll, then you can play the other Elusive Seedroll, and the first one will come back again. Then you can play that one on the board again, and then the second will come back again. And you can do this until you have no triggers left on both Seedrolls. At the same time, you play a lot of tier 5 units, which will trigger a lot of combo units. So the Seedroll and, in essence, the Gladewood Tactician itself will help you generate a lot more combos. Those 2 are very, very strong cards if you have the space to play them. Before I'm talking about heroes, I want to talk about a specific idea of the Phelan the Gilded and how you can abuse this. I know this might be quite hard for some of you to abuse because maybe you don't have the cards, but for the people who do have the Phelan Gilded and a couple of neutral units, this is beautiful to use because you can generate so many cards, so many combos. Let's talk about the comp first. Phelan the Gilded says on combo and kickstart, make a random ally golden until next turn. So as long as you trigger her combo ability, meaning you need to play a tier 5 unit, she will make a unit on the board golden. That means you don't need to make other units on the board golden to get their goldenizer effect in between the round. So for example, if you wanna play the Archivist, he will on end of turn get more stats when he's golden. And if you have the Phelan the Gilded, then the Archivist will always be golden. Because when you play him, she will make the Archivist golden every time, as long as all the other cards on the board are golden before. The other thing why the Phelan is so strong is because there are other cards that profit from the goldenization. And as you can see, most of them are cell cards. Actually, all of them are cell cards, but the Unity doesn't have a cell ability, but the ability will trigger on cell. It's a little bit different because it doesn't have the cell symbol, but the effect is the same. The idea is when you play Phelan the Gilded. Actually, by the way, when she is golden, she will do it for 2 units. She will make 2 units golden. And you played enough tier 5 units so that your whole board is golden, and you then play something like the Unstable Shapeshifter. The Phelan will make the Shapeshifter golden, and then we get the effect of the golden Unstable Shapeshifter. As you can see, the normal version says on cell, get a tier 3 to tier 5 unit of your most common faction. But if he is golden, he will give you 2 tier 3 to tier 5 units of your most common faction. So it's very, very easy to go neutral on that card, because you play that card, then the Phelan will make it golden, and then you can sell that card again to get 2 more units, which you can play and sell again, which means it's free. The next one is the Death Metal. If you have the legendary Death Metal with the sell ability, he will give you 2 war horses for each different faction on the board. And as he himself is 1 unit you can sell, and you have always 1 faction on the board, like Elves, right? You will get 2 war horses. So he himself is also a free unit every single time you see him in the shop, which means more combos for you. The next one is, well, let's talk about the tier 4 unit first, the neutral, the Unity, because you know, it's a tier 4 unit, you cannot trigger the Phelan with her, but if you have the Stag Guardian, for example, you can play the Stag Guardian, and as long as the Stag Guardian is golden, and the rest on the board is golden, the Phelan will make the Prosperous Unity golden instead. Even though it's not a tier 5 unit, but she will make all the units golden. As long as you have 2 spaces on the board, you can place the Unity on the board, then you can place another tier 5 unit on the board, and then the Unity has a chance of getting golden, and if there is only golden units on the board, she will always become golden. So this is a very strong thing you can do if you lost the last turn. Then the Unity will give you 10 coins, which is like double the amount of coins you had before, right? So that's crazy. You can do the same thing with Recalling Everglow, and I think that is like the strongest thing you can do, because the Recalling Everglow will on cell give you 2 recall spells instead, which if you have the Stag Guardian in hand or on the board, you can recall the Stag Guardian again and play him again, and then you can maybe find another Recalling Everglow if you're lucky, and then you can just keep doing the same thing and you generate a lot of gold by it. So the combination of Recalling Everglow with Phelan and with the Stag Guardian is very, very, very strong. The last one is the Shady Trader, and the Shady Trader is strong because you can stack him up throughout the game, and the more often you sell him, the stronger, well, the higher the tier of the unit you will get out of him. And there is the Shady Trader, but there is also another neutral, I think he is a tier 1 even, which will also stack up the tier of the unit that you get. But the Shady Trader will give you Elves only, because it's the most common faction that he will give you. And if you make him golden, he will give you 2 units of your most common faction of that tier that you have him on at the moment. He is always free if you make him golden, with the Phelan the Gilded, and he will give you a lot more tier 5 units later on if you just find him often enough. So those are cards that I'm showing you right now. Those are, I think, the most important ones, but those are the cards that harmonize very well with Phelan the Gilded and with the goldenization effect. So if you can abuse this, I strongly advise you to do that, as the amount of combos you can generate with that go in the hundreds in one turn. It's crazy. Let's finally talk about heroes. This is the first guide that I'm including heroes for, because I think Elves becomes a lot stronger with heroes. And I will show you a couple of heroes that can work very well with Elves. The first 6 heroes I'm showing you are all heroes that can either transfer or generate keywords for your units. And keywords on Elves mean so much that without keywords, Elves are only half as strong, even if they have ranged and shield. Because if you have multi-strike on Elves, you can do double the amount of damage without losing anything. If you have Overwhelm, you do even more damage. And if you have Cleave on them, holy shit, this is way too strong. So Elves with keywords are a whole different faction than without keywords. The first one is Asmodeus, then we have the Bayguard, we have Greybeard, we have Elara Gladewood, which is a elf hero, then we have Paladin Galathiel, and the Fearless Maiden. In my opinion, the Fearless Maiden works best because you don't need to do much and you get all the keywords that you want, but all of them give you keywords in some way. As a matter of fact, if you play Gauntlet or Clan Wars, you have the spells that can give you keywords as well, here and there. Sometimes you get a spell that will give units in the shop or on the board 2 keywords randomly, or anything in that regard. So keywords on Elves mean so much that those spells are very strong for Elves. Furthermore, if you can play those spells, you don't need to pick a hero that will give your units keywords. You can just use another hero instead. And why you should do that, I will show you now. Here you can see 2 Elf heroes and 2 Aztec heroes. The epic ones are Aztec, the legendary ones are Elf heroes. Those heroes are so strong for Elves that it feels like you're playing a whole different faction sometimes. The reason is simple. Shimalma says after you sell a unit, gain 2 coins next turn. So as long as you keep selling 3 units every turn, you generate 2 coins every single turn. So you always play with 16 coins instead of 10. This makes such a big difference that sometimes it feels like the combos never stop if you play it the right way. Another one is Shipili. Shipili has the effect after you play 3 units, the next unit you buy is free. So you can trigger this ability 3 times, meaning he will generate you 3 coins times 3, meaning 9 coins every single turn, which is crazy as well. You get even more gold efficient out of that one than with Shimalma. And as you play and sell a lot of Elves, those 2 heroes help you in what you do anyway, so they will trigger passively every single time you play Elves. You don't need to do anything, and you just get free resources every single turn. The next one is Oswin the Menace. The reason I included Oswin is because he is an elf hero, so some of you might use him if you play elves. And he will give you 2 coin spells every single start of turn. As long as you have space for that ability, he can give you +2 every single turn, which is awesome. The other part of the effect isn't as important, but just having 2 coin spells throughout the game is crazy because you can use them wisely in the early game as well to buy another unit here and there, or even upgrade earlier to have more tempo, to find your Archivist earlier because he is a tier 5 unit, and Elves without the Archivist aren't very strong. The last one is Commander Lucius, and honestly I'm not sure if everyone has that hero, but if you have that hero, he is awesome. He will, after refresh the shop 5 times, units in your shop, in your current shop, costs 2 less. So that means every 5 refreshes, you can buy every unit in the shop, play every unit in the shop, and then sell that unit again. for free, because, well, buying that unit costs 1, and then selling that unit will give you 1 coin back. So Commander Lucius is, as long as you can refresh the shop a couple times with, like, for example, the tier 1 that I've shown you earlier, or with the coins that you have, he will be a very cheap way of buying units in the shop and triggering more combos. So those are cards that, as you can see, work with the money aspect. And money on elves means a lot. They make a very big difference. So if you have any of these, I strongly advise you to try them out with elves. And if you feel like there is something, try more, and you find more and more ways of abusing those heroes. They are just so strong on elves. And if you have no problem with keywords, they are just beautiful to play. Okay, let's talk about endgame boards. The first board I will show you is about Iris Storm Splitter with Cleave and a lot of stat generation. There is nothing else really that happens but the Glorious Enchanter, because he will give barrier to all your units but himself. So in essence, you will have stats on your units, and you will have 1 ranged Cleave unit and 5 units with barrier. That is the idea of what is happening here. This is solely focused on stats, but there are other combinations of cards that you can use that are not as focused on stats, but maybe another kind of application that you want to use to face specific factions instead. The Iris Storm Splitter will have Cleave. That is the whole combo ability. If he's legendary, he will also get stats as well. But that's about it. But he is a combo unit, which is very nice because you want as many combo units on the board as you possibly can to trigger them all whenever you play a unit. The next one is Fallen the Gilded. I explained Fallen before, so I will not explain her again, but she's always nice, and she is a combo unit. So if you play units on the board that are tier 5, she will always trigger, meaning if you play a tier 5 unit and Iris Storm Splitter and Fallen the Gilded are on the board, every single time you trigger 2 combos, which is awesome. The next one is Glorious Enchanter, and he is even a tier 3 unit, and he can apply barrier and some stats on the units whenever his combo triggers. So he is also very nice because he is a tier 3 combo, which is even lower. You can place even more units on the board to trigger him. And yeah, the barrier is just very nice to have, so I really like using him. The next one is the Echo Weaver. I talked about that one as well. He has to be on the end board every single time because he only triggers his start of turn ability to get 4 recall spells if he's on the board. And the last 2 are 2 recurring archivists. I put them both on the board because I think the more archivists you have, the better, because the more archivists you have, the more stats you generate end of turn. But I wouldn't play too many, because if you have 3 recurring archivists, for example, you have to compromise 1 slot for a combo unit maybe, and that means you get less combos, which means you get less stats. So it doesn't really change that much for you if you have 1 more archivist, but all of them give you less stats because you have less combo triggers. The second board is a variation of the first one. The idea is still the same. You want to trigger as many combos as possible. So you need the Storm Splitter, and I use the Phelan here again. But you can also use the Enchanter, for example, if you don't have the Fallen, to trigger as many combos as possible. Then you have the Enchantress Melody. I included her this time because I think showing that, well, as some people don't have the Echo Weaver, but the Enchantress Melody, I just want to show the positioning on how I would play them. Well, mostly, because the Enchantress Melody will only pick up the units in its own row, and picking up the Recurring Archivist is always nice, because those are tier 5 units, and they are not combo units, so you can place them end of turn and you don't lose anything. If you pick up the Storm Splitter instead, then she cannot trigger combo abilities as long as she is not on the board, so that is bad. You don't want to pick those 2 up. If you have other units that you can pick up instead. If the Enchantress Melody is golden though, you will pick up the whole board, And then you have to be very careful of the amount of units you have in hand end of turn, because if you have more than one unit in hand end of turn, you will pick up every single unit until you have 6 units in hand, and then this effect will stop. So if you have, let's say, 3 units in hand and you have the board as it is, it will start picking up the Storm Splitter, then the Quickshot Archer, and then the Fallen Gilded, and then it will stop because there is no space in hand to pick up the Recurring Archivists. So in cases like this, sometimes it's actually better to swap out the front and the back row so that you can pick up the Recurring Archivists instead. This will make your board a little bit weaker in between rounds, but that is okay as long as you are strong enough to win against the enemy and you get more combos out of it. It's a little bit greedy, but it works fine. The last one is just a variation of the second one with the Echo Weaver instead of the Enchantress Melody, because if you have the Echo Weaver, in my opinion, she is way better to use than the Enchantress Melody. Thank you for listening to my guide. I hope you found something new, and if you have any questions regarding elves, you can ask them in the comments down below. Have a good one. Bye.
caverns deep where nightmares sleep, we rise with ancient light to turn their black to shining white. Their claws like stone, their eyes like coal. They hunger for the elven soul. But we are fire and forest song. Our spirits fierce, our arms are strong. From emerald leaves to skies of blue, we fight for all we once held true. Shadows beneath the roots they creep, from caverns deep where nightmares sleep, we rise with ancient light to turn their black to shining They came from the rift where the earth is torn, from a hollowed core where no light is born. But we are the keepers of dawn's embrace, and we shall not fall in this sacred place. Silver Dew on sleeping branches, moss of steps, we leave no scar. Roots remember names in whispers, carved in rings of elder star. Lantern moss like drifting embers, circle crowns of woven green. Every breath a fragile promise kept between the worlds unseen. Spiral high through living stone. Books of bark and mirrored moonlight guard the paths our hearts have known. Blades asleep in flowering scabbards, armor hung with ivy chains. Only rise when thunder's footsteps threaten what the green sustains. This is our home beneath the breathing boughs, where ancient rivers sing our vows. We are the hush in every falling leaf, the quiet keepers of your dreams. This is our home where starlight learns to rest, held in the hollow of the west. We are the song the bright dawn never finds, the forest written in our Drink of the well that never freezes, walk where the roots remember all. If you arrive with broken seasons, we'll teach your weary time to fall. This is our home.